Okay, so the mockumentary I made, this is basically how it got done. Everything else that I've shot, I've used just the phone on. This one, I used the phone and another camera. Let me grab the other camera. Yeah, it's right here. So I use this and that. Now you don't need to for whatever it is that you make. The reason I did it is because I wanted to do more than just one camera. It gave me more options, and also it made it easy to where I could have the questions on the phone that I was answering throughout this and could just see it and keep going because everything was up off the top of my head for this, right? How the idea came about is I wanted to make a documentary. So I'm like, okay, what route should be taken? The idea came across that, okay, it should be about somebody that they'd never make one about, ever. That nobody would ever make one about, right? So I thought, okay, sleazy. How sleazy? Well, porn stars and stuff, that's sleazy. Wait. What if it was one that happened to be a porn star with animals? Okay, that's a messed up situation. And it kind of made me laugh. I'm like, a documentary about this kind of guy. Okay, that's a messed up thing, but. And then I knew I had to take it seriously. What I mean by that is not that the idea or anything was serious or I was serious about the subject matter. It's that all the questions had to be answered matter of factly, like they're real. And I didn't know which way this movie was going to go, to be honest with you. Before the cut that's out there, there was another storyline throughout it as well. But I decided to cut that one out and keep it just the way it is now. So even if you overshoot, that's not a bad thing. It's better than undershooting. You can cut stuff out easy. Now, with this, you may have noticed there's only one actor in the whole thing. Made it really easy. I mean, I wanted to have multiple, just it didn't work out this time. So maybe in another one coming up, but this one, just yeah, couldn't happen. How I shot the scenes was simple. I would set up the camera. As you saw, I was always stationary. I would have the questions somewhere that I could see them. And one of the locations, I had it to where I had the phone connected to the TV. So I could see the questions clearly. It's when I'm at the drafting table. I did that and it worked out. But a lot of the times I was actually using the phone. Now, I did use some stock footage as well throughout it. Some free stock footage that I was able to find and legally use. Right? There are websites that have that. So all of the animal ones were that way. Basically anything with film quality jumped way up. Yeah, that was stock footage. The only use of music in it I actually played. No, not the only use. There was one other, the backing music for the voiceover in the beginning, which I didn't play. So one piece that I played, one piece that I didn't. Um, So, people that think you cannot get something like this done, you can easily get something like this done. Don't approach the story or whatever seriously, but answer the questions seriously as whatever character you're playing. If you can lie, you can do this. None of it was written at all. I never knew what I was going to say. Period. The first thing in the mockumentary is the first thing that I shot for it. Up until right then, I did not know the character's name. I did not know how old they were. Nothing. Right? I just started off, and then having that beginning part, I was able to jump off and kind of know where I was going a little bit better from there. Meaning, whatever the answers to the questions that I asked myself were, I'd build off those answers. So instead, in the next batch of questions, one that I might have asked before, I'm not going to ask now, and I'm going to switch it out, right? To where this story's going. Because I didn't know that it was going to be about a guy's rise to, doing his old job again and all that. I had no idea, okay? Like I said, there was a totally different plot to it. So I never thought it was going to be this. But it's basically a guy that has a job doing horrible things, falls into obscurity, basically is homeless. He's a hustler. Somehow he gets back in the business, and yeah. So it's that kind of story. Now, I didn't think it was going to be that kind of story. But it fits for a lot of documentaries. So I don't think it was a bad choice. But like I said, it's just really easy to do. The documentary thing, there's different ways you can get it done. I use title cards. The reason I use those is that way I didn't have to worry about getting another voice in there, right? Now, I could have had someone else voice the questions and all that. But here's the problem. The audio throughout the movie is different, right? And I know that. And in documentaries, that's okay. People can get away with it. They do all the time, right? But if I had them ask a question outside of that area where I shot it, the sound is going to be way too different and it's going to be off, right? So, for me, that's a bit of a problem. It takes away from believability. So that's the reason that I use the title cards. Plus, I know there are people that regularly make documentaries on here that basically do that same thing. So, I'm like, okay, it fits, it works, and it really cuts down time and everything else because you can easily rephrase the question or whatever. There is one or two questions in this documentary that I actually changed because the wording wasn't right. Because I got on a rant and it went from answering the question just to going off, and that going off, because it was not planned, I did not have a question for it, so it was an after the fact thing. But yeah, all this can be done really easily overall. As far as editing goes, all that I really did was, actually on this one it was a little bit, so if you're brand new it might seem like a lot, but of course splitting the scenes kind of knocks us off, editing it down that way, and then removing audio from some of the video, not what I mean by that is separating it from it. So I can still use the audio even if I delete the video clip, right? So I would do that and keep the audio and put it over one of the driving scenes or something like that. Also, there's another scene in it, the one in the shed. That one I did a voiceover as well. It wasn't a voiceover, I recorded the audio for it, and because of the way that I did something, I had to separate it. So yeah, that scene. But those are the main ways that I did that. In this particular one, let me think. What else? Yeah, it was mainly the voiceover stuff, and then with I used voiceover on all the stock footage as well. So, and with that, I through InShot, you are able to record audio straight with the video playing, right? So you're basically dubbing it in real time. And that's what I did with these because I didn't want to overrun the scene itself. And plus, I had them back to back, so I'm like, I can just talk about them quick, knock them all out, and that's really what worked best for me. Because otherwise, I might overthink it, and I didn't want to overthink it. I wanted it just to be whatever first came to my head, because that's what was going to be funniest. And the reason it came across like I wasn't trying to be funny is because I was thinking that whole time. Like I was locked in. I really didn't want to mess up because I didn't want to have to record it again. And I know that doesn't work for everybody, but it worked for me. So, like I said, this is the kind of thing you can do all by yourself. If it's your first time doing it, honestly, I'd kind of suggest it because I know a lot of people would rather make a horror movie or something like that. But with this one, I had no effects. I was able to work on my editing and different parts of editing, right? I got to experiment more with chopping parts up and putting them in different orders because the stuff that I've done before this is kind of more narrative, right? And a lot shorter than this one. So, excuse me. Like I said, the others were a lot shorter than this one, like under half the length, I want to say. So, it's also easier to fill up time talking. That is a detriment to a lot of movies, in my opinion, but because they talk instead of show. But with documentaries, it's about both, and when you can't do one, do the other. I couldn't show everything, so, set it all instead. And normally, if it was presented as anything but a documentary, I'm making fun of documentaries basically, but if it was presented any other way, it wouldn't work. So, there you go.